class is on nutrition in a nutshell. And a little disclaimer, my family thought it was very funny that I called it this because I'm allergic to nuts. They're like, well, you can't serve them, so no nuts today. But the idea of this is just to give you a base knowledge of the facts of nutrition. So how many of you have read stuff on the internet or in a magazine, and it seems like one day something's good for you, the next day it's not, and it leaves you feeling stressed and confused? Yeah. I think we all have, yes. And when we're stressed and confused about something that we need in our body, we have to do every single day to live, that's even more stressful. So I hope to reduce some of that stress and kind of give you a different mindset, or kind of shed a new light on food and nutrition and how we can look at it with our bodies. So what is nutrition? So nutrition is the act or process of nourishing or being nourished. So pretty basic. So everybody raise your hand. Okay, everybody touch your head. Okay, think of a purple square in your head. Can you picture that? Think of a home-cooked meal and kind of the feelings that that brings. When you're thinking about your favorite home-cooked meal, can you smell it? Can you visualize it? Can you almost like start salivating at the thought of the taste of it? So all those things we just did, food is the reason for that. So energy, to raise our hand. We need food to give our bodies energy, or else we wouldn't be able to even do that. Our heartbeat, so if you put your hand on your chest, your heart's beating. We need food and water to do that. And then things like thinking, so picturing that yellow square or whatever I told you to picture. And then also the feelings associated with food. So if you're picturing your favorite home-cooked meal, it might have brought a sense of comfort. Or you start picturing like the holiday season or your birthday, or picture yourself in the kitchen cooking and being happy. And then all the senses involved. So we can taste, we can smell, we can feel, and all of that food provides. So to me, food it's a lot of things, and it's everything, but we kind of have to let it be everything without letting it be everything. Does that make sense? So here's the outline for the class. So we are going to talk about just the basics of nutrition as far as what is food, what's in it, and how does that work in my body, as well as fluids and hydration. Then we're going to tie it all together, and we'll leave room for questions too. And I like to keep it informal, so if you have a question and you don't think you're going to be able to remember it, just shout it out and we can talk. So the most basic thing about food is macronutrients. Has anybody ever heard this word? Yes, we got some people. So macronutrients is just a fancy science word for energy or calories. So calories are how we get energy to perform. Just to make our heart beat, of course, but also if we want to run or do exercise or just get through the day. So we need calories. And calories come in the form of the 3 macronutrients, and that's carbohydrates, fat, and protein. So carbohydrates are our main source of energy. They're our body's preferred source of fuel because they are easily broken down into glucose. And glucose is another fancy word for sugar. So sugar is how our body can quickly turn our food into energy. It doesn't have to work as hard, and that's a good thing. We want our bodies to be able to perform well. So that's the main rule for carbohydrates. They're just for energy. In our diets, a healthy adult needs about 45 to 65% of carbohydrates. So that varies. So maybe somebody who has diabetes, they might need the lower range, 45%, because they're more sensitive to the glucose and carbohydrates. Somebody who's an endurance athlete, or somebody who quickly burns calories, has a really high metabolism, or a young child, they're going to need closer to that 65% range. Then there's fat. So fat does other things other than providing energy. So fat is very protecting, so it protects our vital organs. We actually need fat on our bodies. It stores as an energy store, or it serves as an energy store. So fat in our body, the main reason for that is because if for some reason we don't have access to food, our body can burn that up and we can live. So that's pretty cool. And then also fat-soluble vitamins. So vitamins A, D, E, and K, and we'll talk more about those. Those are fat-soluble, so they need fat when they're consumed to be able to absorb properly and perform their actions. And then hormone synthesis. So cholesterol and fat-soluble vitamins actually help us to synthesize hormones and for the hormones to do their jobs. So hormones are kind of little chemical messengers that go all throughout our body and tell certain organs how to work. So they're important. So we need fat. And as far as the as far as an adult diet, we need about 20 to 35% fat. So once again, that just varies based on you and your needs and what you're doing. And then also fat can be broken down into glucose and serve as energy. Then we have protein. So protein is for repair and growth. That's its main job. So we really don't want to use protein as energy, but it can be. Protein kind of helps repair our cells. That's what helps our hair grow and our skin cells grow. It helps, things turn over in our body and make new in our body. So we want protein to do those jobs. But if needed, if we're not getting enough carbohydrates and fat, then protein can also be broken down to glucose, and it can be used as energy. So our body likes to make sure we're taken care of. So we have all these tactics to make sure our body can keep going. Does anybody have questions on macronutrients or comments? Yeah.
So I've been hearing a lot lately about the keto diet.
Yes.
So is it more recommended to have just, more equal amounts rather than like, sorry,
What kind of diet?
The ketogenic diet.
Yeah, so compared to like no carbs and a lot of fats.
Yes. So, like I said, those ranges are an average, and they're just a broad term for what they found to be the most useful ranges for people. So, with a ketogenic diet, typically people are going below 20% of their carbohydrates of intake, and then they're having to make up for that with fat and protein. So, fat and protein on a ketogenic diet are your sources of energy. Which is a little bit harder on our body. So it's called the ketogenic diet because our body has to break down those foods, and we don't have carbohydrates, so we can't make glucose as well. So our body creates something called ketones. And it's a toxic byproduct that can also serve as energy in our body if needed. So to answer your question, there are some populations that do well on a ketogenic diet, but it's not something where I'm like, you should be on it, you should be on it, you should be on it. It's more of a small population where, okay, this is working for you. But generally, making sure you're getting enough of each is the best way to go. Good question. So as far as energy, is everybody familiar with blood sugar? Okay, so blood sugar is just that food being broken down into glucose or sugar in our blood, and then it goes through our blood and it gets in our cells, and then our cells can create energy and we can do what we need to do. So the three macronutrients have different effects on our blood sugar. So carbohydrates, if you see that top curve right there, have the most impact on our blood sugar. And that's like why I said somebody who has diabetes, maybe we would go more towards that 45% range and see how that works with them. A typical American diet is getting over that 65%. So it's not that we don't want to have carbohydrates. We can't have carbohydrates with diabetes. It's we want to make sure we're getting the right ratio. So if we were to just eat an apple, that's a good source of carbohydrates. We might see our blood sugar theoretically go in that curve. So it's going to go up and it's going to go down. Something like pop, that's just straight sugar, has no fiber or nutrients to it, that's going to be a drastic shoot up and shoot down, even more so than that. Protein. So protein does raise our blood sugar a little bit, not as much as carbohydrates. So if we eat a piece of chicken, we might see that middle curve there. And then we have fat, which barely has an impact on our blood sugar. And so that's going to be that very bottom line. So if we're only eating fat with that bottom line, we might not feel very energetic. Our body might not be doing what it's supposed to be doing because it's not getting that good energy source. So if we just lived on fat, we wouldn't feel good and we wouldn't be getting the energy we need. Our blood sugar wouldn't be rising enough. If we were just to eat protein, we would get a little rise, it would go down, but it wouldn't be sustained. So it's not going to help keep us full and energized in the long term. And then if we were just to eat carbohydrates, we'd have a quick burst of energy and then it would go down. So how do you think we would get a line that's a little bit higher than protein and as long as fat?
Moderation.
Moderation. Putting them all together. So we need carbohydrates, fat, and protein in correct portions and ratios to help our blood sugar be more stabilized. So you can kind of think of it as rolling hills. So we want that rolling hill blood sugar. We don't want peaks and valleys. And we don't want a flat line either. Pop quiz. Y'all scared? Okay, so we'll do it together. So name 3 sources of each macronutrient. So somebody shout out one of the macronutrients, and we'll start with that.
Bread.
Bread is a
Carbohydrates.
So carbohydrates, we have bread. 2 more.
Chicken protein.
Chicken is protein, so we have 1 for protein. What's another carbohydrate?
Potatoes.
Potatoes. 1 more.
Peas.
Peas. Very good. So those are 3 sources of carbohydrates. So when we're planning our meal, let's pick one of those. Protein, we said chicken. What's another source of protein?
Eggs.
Eggs and fish. So our next meal, let's pick one of those. And then what's the last macronutrient? Fat. So what's some butter, of course.
Bacon.
Bacon.
Maybe milk.
And milk. If we have a not skim milk, it'll have fat in it. Yeah. So out of those 3 things, let's say we have fish, a potato, and butter. That's a balanced meal with all the macronutrients. It's that simple. Another pop quiz. Why do we need all 3 together? It's the picture we just looked at.
Keep it level.
Energy, we want to keep it steady. We want steady blood sugar, steady energy. And they all do different things too. All right, so from those macronutrients, we get micronutrients. I like to think of macronutrients as tools for our body. So if macronutrients are the energy source, then micronutrients are the tools. Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. So vitamins and minerals don't provide calories or energy, but they serve our body in other ways. So the definition of a micronutrient is a chemical element or substance required in trace amounts for the normal growth and development of living organisms. Does that sound important to you? Yes. So this is a lovely little list from the FDA that breaks down all the vitamins and minerals and what they do in our body. I remember learning like my first nutrition class in school about micronutrients, and I feel like that's just where switch was flipped, and I was like, okay, this makes sense. Like food is doing all this stuff in our bodies, and that's why we need to eat healthy. Like everybody has that moment where it clicks, and that really helped me. So name a vitamin or a mineral, and we can look it up and see.
D.
Vitamin D. So vitamin D helps with blood pressure regulation, bone growth, calcium balance, hormone production, immune function, and nervous system function. So that's pretty important. And vitamin D is kind of a hot vitamin right now, so it's being heavily researched as to a deficiency can cause all these different things. And just reading that, it's kind of understandable if we're deficient in vitamin D, all those things aren't working like they should, or they're not functioning as they should. So vitamin D we can get from eggs and fish, fish oil, milk, fortified products. But do you know the best way to get vitamin D in our bodies? The sun. So it's actually very hard to get enough vitamin D through our diet, especially being in an area like here where our winter months we don't see much sun, and especially this time where most people are working inside from 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, and we're not getting outside as much. But in the sun, just for 15 minutes, generally, it depends on the color of your skin, just 15 minutes, you can get about 10,000 international units. That's a lot. And then so our body can store that. So let's say you go outside on Monday for 15 minutes and you soak up all your vitamin D and you're feeling good, and then you don't go outside the rest of the week. Well, your body's got you because it stores it, and then it can trickle through that. So back in the day, when you're outside all day and doing work and whatever, you would be outside in the summer months, get all your vitamin D stored up, and then in the winter we were fine. But now, we're not really outside working all the time, and we're not getting those stores up, and then so many people are deficient in the fall and winter months, and summer sometimes too. So that was a good one to point out. We'll just pick another random one. So folic acid or folate. Have you guys heard of this one? Most women probably have. So it's very important for childbearing years and through pregnancy because it helps prevent neural tube defects for the growing baby. It also helps with protein metabolism and red blood cell formation. So getting folate in our diet is going to help those things. You can find that in stuff like asparagus, avocado, fortified cereals and grains, orange juice, that kind of stuff. Is there another vitamin or mineral that you guys want to look at or been thinking about? No? Okay. So there's a lot. So we have biotin, folic acid, niacin, pantothenic acid, riboflavin, thiamine. Those are all our B vitamins. So when you take a B complex, those are all their scientific names. And B vitamins, typically a main job of all of them is energy metabolism. So carbohydrates, fat, and protein typically need a good source of B vitamins to be able to be turned into energy properly. Then we have vitamin A, a couple more B vitamins down here, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. So vitamin C and these B vitamins are also water soluble. So water soluble means they follow water, that's how they're digested and absorbed. And then we have vitamin A, D, E, and K, and those are fat soluble. They need fat to absorb. Does that make sense? Okay. Then we have minerals. So minerals are things like calcium and chloride, chromium, copper, iodine, iron, magnesium, manganese, molybdenum, phosphorus, potassium, selenium, sodium, and zinc. So that's a lot of stuff in our food. And luckily, if you can look at these sources of all of these, if you're eating a variety of foods, odds are you're getting enough. The problem is where we're not eating any whole foods and we're only eating fast food and processed foods and not drinking water and that kind of stuff. Then it makes it really hard to be able to get all that we need. For instance, selenium. So it's an antioxidant, so it helps protect our cells from oxidation, can help prevent disease and illness, immune function, reproduction, and thyroid function. So selenium is found in foods like eggs, enriched pasta and grains, meats, nuts, especially Brazil nuts. Selenium, Brazil nuts, remember that. Poultry, seafood, and whole grains. So odds are, if you're eating a balanced diet, you're getting one of those foods in or a couple of those in a couple times a day. So we're probably not deficient in selenium if we're doing that. And that goes for everything. So there's a variety of foods. So let's say you're a vegetarian or something and you don't eat poultry. Okay, well, we can get your selenium through your nuts and your enriched grains, but you have to know the other sources. Alrighty. Any questions on vitamins and minerals? No? Okay. The next thing in food, so we have the micronutrients, now we have the phytonutrients. And phytonutrients aren't calories, they're not energy, they're not vitamins, they're not minerals, but they're found in plant foods. And the best way I could think of to describe it is they're medicinal for the body. So these are plant compounds that they have found to literally be like medicine in our body. Now, it might not work as quick or as effective as like a medication that's doing the same job, but it's really going to prove, hey, eating more of this actually can help your blood pressure if we're smart about it and we're getting it in your diet. So they have found more than 5,000, but there's still more out there that they haven't found. It's kind of a new area of nutrition research, fairly new. And they're compounds that have positive effects on health. They're not in all foods, but most plant foods will have one or another form of them. So cinnamaldehyde. Do you know what that's in? You can kind of guess. It's in cinnamon. So cinnamon has been found to assist in blood sugar regulation. And the more that those scientists dug into it, they found, hey, it's from this compound, cinnamaldehyde, that they named. So that's pretty cool. That doesn't mean go home and eat a lot of cinnamon, because that's dangerous. But maybe if we have blood sugar problems or we just want to pay more attention to it, let's start by sprinkling cinnamon on our oatmeal and putting a splash of milk. We have fat, protein, carbohydrates, which provides micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, and now we have phytonutrients in there too. And then quercetin is in onions, and it consists in blood pressure reduction. Yes?
Does it make a difference whether the onions are cooked or uncooked?
So typically cooking things actually helps the nutrients to be absorbed better in some foods. Some, the raw form is better. It just depends if like B vitamins and stuff would leach out in the cooking. For onions though, I'm not sure. Sorry. But I would say cooked or uncooked, either way, you're getting a little bit that you weren't getting. So if blood pressure is something we want to pay attention to, which we all should be paying attention to it, let's throw some onions in our spaghetti sauce tonight. And there we go. We have some phytonutrients. And there's a ton. Those are just 2 examples. So I know this is what you're all thinking right now, right? Okay, this is a question that I get a lot. Has anybody been thinking this in their mind right now? No? Okay. A lot of people say, well, why can't I just eat my McDonald's and drink my Coke every day and take a multivitamin? Well, it's not the same. So in my office, when you come see me, you will see these 3 pictures on my wall. So when you look at this picture of a lemon, you might start thinking, oh, that's bright. You might be able to picture the tanginess that it provides. But also in a lemon, we have those phytonutrients. We have vitamins. We have some protein and carbohydrates and fiber, some water to help hydrate us. And we have minerals like iron and potassium. So in a lemon, which is very high in vitamin C, we're getting other things, and it's pretty and it tastes good and it's food. And then let's say we have a vitamin C supplement, a white powdery substance, definitely not as appetizing looking, probably doesn't make your mouth water. And it does have vitamin C. So this is a quote from a book that I absolutely love, and the book is called Brain Food. And this was just like, yes, this is what I've been trying to say, and she knew how to say it a lot better than me. But she said, nutrients work in concert, not isolation. And it's this teamwork that works to ensure optimal health. For example, let's look at a lemon. So in your mind, picture biting into a tart, tangy lemon. Just thinking about biting into a lemon will kick your senses up a notch. Now imagine popping a vitamin C supplement in your mouth. Most likely you'll experience nothing. We've extracted the vitamin out of the lemons, but the lemon has a lot more to it. A pill can provide as much, or sometimes a lot more, vitamin C or another vitamin as the lemon, but it's incapable of providing the full experience that activates your body and mind. And so that's my answer, if anybody says that now. So I like to think of vitamins and multivitamins as support. So it's not a ticket to eat whatever you want. They'll just put the vitamins in you with this pill. No. Let's try to eat better. And then if we need vitamins, we can add those. But it should be like second string, not first option. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've talked about food, and the other thing we need to live is water. So we can actually go a lot longer without food than we can water. Water is extremely important for our bodies, and it is part of nutrition. So water and fluids help provide hydration to our body. Electrolytes are something that is found in a good source of water, and fluid sources that help to hydrate our cells, help move fluid in our cells, help move waste out of our cells, help our muscles be healthy and contracting right. Fluids also help with fluid balance, so like I said, that water in and out of cells. And then they also help flush and cleanse our body. So water is going through your body and helping to clean it out, remove toxins when we use the bathroom. So I'm sure you've seen something like this before, but it's just very eye-opening every time you see it. So the human body, the brain is about 75% water. So if we aren't drinking water all day, our brain's not going to be working very well. So have you ever felt dizzy or foggy or sleepy or shaky? Yeah, sometimes that can be because of dehydration. So something that all those signs can be very alarming, and you're like, what's going on with me? This is serious. Water could be a really simple solution and a non-harmful thing to try to fix. So blood is 92% water, bones about 22%, and muscles about 75% water. So we have a lot of water in our body, so we need to make sure that we're providing it with the amount it needs to do all it needs to do. So how much should you drink? So once again, it's different based on your personal needs, what you're doing, what your body's doing. But just rule of thumb, for a healthy adult, about half your ounces, or half your body weight in ounces, should be sufficient. There's some people who need fluid restriction. There's some people who need more water than that. But this is kind of middle of the road suggestion. So if you weigh 220 pounds, 110 ounces should be enough to prevent dehydration. That's about 7 water bottles. You can also eat your water. So fruits and vegetables provide a lot of water. So a tomato is 94% water. So when we're having that tomato sauce with our onions on our whole grain spaghetti with our turkey meatballs, we're getting fluid in that meal. That's so cool, right? Cucumbers, I feel like we know those are full of water. Cucumbers are about 96% water. You could be really awesome and put cucumbers in your water, and then it could help it taste good. You're putting vitamins and minerals in your water.
Cross the line there.
Okay,
If you cross
I better take it back a notch. Watermelon. So summer months, watermelon screams summer to me. So snacking on your watermelon, you're hydrating your body. And then another quote from that book, just because I really liked it. she said water is involved in every chemical reaction in our body. So every chemical reaction that's going on in our body, there's millions and millions of reactions, water is needed for all of those. So we don't have enough, they can't do their jobs, and then that can result in a lot of things not feeling right or not working right. It's also crucial for energy production, like I said. So a 3 to 4% decrease in water is enough to provoke dehydration. So that doesn't sound like a lot, and it's not a lot. So if we were just going on our average day, maybe we have a cup of tea in the morning and we eat breakfast, we go to work, and then we do moderate exercise. So just maybe we go walk for 20 minutes on our lunch break, and then we stop and we haven't drank throughout that little workout. That's enough to cause a 3 to 4% decrease in our hydration. And that can already cause brain fog, dizziness, shakiness, all that kind of stuff. So everybody take a sip of water. And then according to the CDC, 43% of adult Americans report drinking less than 4 cups a day. So going to the ounces, that's about 32 ounces. So unless these adults weigh 64 pounds, that's not meeting their needs. And that includes 36% who only drink 1 to 3 cups, so that's even less. And then 7% who drink no water. So it doesn't have to be actual water. Like I said, it can be your fruit, getting hydration through that. Any fluid is putting fluid in your body. So coffee and tea, those are fluids, but they're not hydrating you as well as water or fruit or vegetables would. Milk, that's a fluid, but it's not hydrating you the same. So that's why all these people are still living. They're getting water other ways. And then one more thing I want to note about water is when we see purified, that means that they've taken out the chemicals, which is great, but they've also taken out the minerals, the electrolytes that help hydrate ourselves. So if you look at your bottled water, it's probably purified, and that's fine. We're still adding fluid to our body, but we're not necessarily hydrating ourselves. So I always say choose spring water. So when you get the big jug at the store and it says spring water, that's going to have those naturally occurring electrolytes that can help hydrate us. And people think I'm goofy for saying just drink more water, but they start doing it and they start drinking more spring water and they're like, wow, I was really dehydrated. Like, yeah. Okay.
What about flavored waters?
Flavored waters?
Flavor the spring.
Yeah.
Instead of purified.
So putting your flavoring in the spring water would be a good thing to do if you're going to do that. Yeah, if that helps you drink your water. I do like squeezing fruit in there, though. That's another way to do it, but not the cucumbers. You don't have to do that.
Cross the line.
You should try it, though. So this sounds complicated and hard, maybe, to some of you. But I'm all about making it as simple as possible, and it really can be simple. So just balancing our daily intake with nutrient-dense, wholesome foods most of the time. Not telling you to do this every single day. But if we do that most of the time and we're drinking more fluids, you might find that your body feels a little better. And so balancing our intake, we want to make sure we're getting a variety. So we want grains, we want protein foods, we want dairy or dairy alternatives, we want fruits and vegetables, and we want water or fluid. So with this lovely picture that's kind of blurry, we can see that it's a plate of salad. And this is a dietitian mind looking at it, so maybe you'll start doing this too. But when we look at it, we see over here we have some dried cranberries. It's kind of hard to tell what they are. That's fruit. We have a whole grain. It's like a couscous type thing in the middle there, that white next to the cranberries. We have tomatoes, which are vegetables. We have some ground up chicken, which is a protein food or meat. We have cheese, which provides us with dairy. We have seeds, which are a protein plant food. And then we have some corn, which is more vegetables. And under all that, we have lettuce, which is a very high water content of vegetables. So that simple meal, we're getting everything we need. We have carbohydrates, we have fat, we have protein, We have a wide variety of food groups that are going to provide us with a wide variety of vitamins and minerals. And we have our fruits and vegetables to provide water, but maybe you're drinking some water or tea with it. What do y'all think about that?
That's good.
It looks good. Okay. So I am a visual learner, so I guess I feel like everybody else should be too. So I like to do hands-on things to help really put into effect what we learned, or what I hope you learned today. So we're going to match the nutrition label to the product. So we have some San Pellegrino water, which is a spring mineral water. So it's going to have those electrolytes in it. It's going to hydrate us very well. And then we have a bottle of Coke. So same amounts. So what nutrient label do we think goes with each? Yes. It's pretty simple, yeah. So the one with 0 calories, the one that has calcium and sodium and only one ingredient is the water. And so that shows you for the less ingredients, the less calories, we're actually getting more out of that San Pellegrino. Not sure about prices, but I would go to say they're probably about the same price. And then with the Coke, so in that Coke, which, yes, it's delicious, and maybe we have a couple sips with our burger every once in a while, because we're American, right? But if we're drinking Coke for our fluid source, we're also putting 200 calories in our body, and those calories aren't providing us with vitamins and minerals. It's a quick sugar rush. It's a lot of carbohydrates, so if we need to go sprint, then yeah, we should take some sips of Coke. But other than that, it's not providing us with calcium or the electrolytes that our body needs. And also the ingredient list. So it has water, but it also has high fructose corn syrup, caramel color, phosphoric acid, and natural flavors, and it does have caffeine too. So
What do you think of carbonated water?
I love carbonated water.
It sounds good coming from you.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So the San Pellegrino, that's a mineral carbonated water, so it's going to have those electrolytes in it naturally. And then there's also like seltzer waters and club sodas, and those won't always have the minerals in it. They might add calcium to it to help it bubble, but yeah, any source is still a good way to hydrate. Okay, and now we have a handful of nuts and we have a pre-made trail mix. So it's a very long list, but let's try to match them up.
Well, the first one goes with the top one.
Yes, you are, wait, yeah, the first one goes with the top one. Yeah, so for a handful of nuts, we get about 164 calories, a handful. That's how I like to measure things. I think it's like 4 tablespoons or something. We're getting heart-healthy fats, we're getting carbohydrates, and we're getting protein. So it's getting us good energy that's going to be able to sustain. We're also getting a lot of vitamins and minerals. So we're getting magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, zinc, vitamin C, thiamine, riboflavin. Sorry, no vitamin C, that's a 0. Niacin, vitamin B6, folate, and a little bit of vitamin A and vitamin E, and no cholesterol. And the only ingredient in that is almonds. So with that one ingredient, that one whole food, we're getting all of that nutrition. And then on the flip side, let's say we grab some trail mix at the gas station or something. So in that, we have nuts, but we also have other ingredients. So if somebody were only watching calories, they might grab that trail mix and do a serving size compared to the almonds because it's 14 more calories. But those 14 more calories are going to really help our body not act the same. In the trail mix, we have peanuts, we have M&Ms, we have soy lecithin, salt, artificial flavors, sugar, cornstarch, corn syrup, some food coloring, raisins, and at the bottom is almonds. So both of them have almonds. But if we look at the nutrition label, so it's 150 calories for a serving. It does have fat, protein, and carbohydrates, so that's good. Has fiber. It does have more sugar in it because we have the chocolate candies in there. And then when we look at the vitamins and minerals, it doesn't provide as much for our bodies. So our body's going to get a lot more just out of those almonds. And I'm not saying the trail mix is bad. I'm not saying the Coke is bad. I'm saying what are we doing most often? If this is the only snack we eat, let's try to do a homemade trail mix maybe and put some almonds in there with a whole grain cereal, some dark chocolate chips, and some raisins. That's going to provide you with a lot of nutrition. It's going to be cheaper too.
So most of your prepackaged trail mixes
Most of it. There are
run you
some.
up and run you back down pretty
Yeah.
much with the sugar and
Yeah, so it's M&Ms. So at least you're eating your M&Ms with your fat and your protein from your nuts there. That's going to help with your blood sugar a little bit versus just eating the M&Ms.
Yeah.
But the premise is just if you can choose the whole food most of the time, odds are you're getting more out of it.
Well, and I'm relating with what you said earlier for Americans. You go in a convenience
Yeah.
store, you're traveling, you grab a quick snack.
Yeah. And so maybe, let's say you travel every day for work, and that is your routine. And you go to the gas station, and this is what you usually get every day. Let's say tomorrow you're like, hey, I think she said something about almonds, and they have a pack of just regular almonds. So you grab that. And then maybe it's Thursday, and you're really excited because it's almost Friday, and you're like, you know what? Today I'm going to get the other trail mix. And that's fine. So you're doing the good, the better thing most of the time. And this is how my mind works. So I had to make a picture of like what I was trying to say. And this is what I was trying to say. So our bodies, we need food and drink. So we have that picture up there. The food and drink gets broken down into macronutrients. So those are those big molecules that provide us with calories and energy. They're broken down into blood glucose to help give us energy through the form of blood sugar. They also do other things. The macronutrients are broken down into micronutrients. They have micronutrients in them. So that's vitamins and minerals, the tools for our body. And then we have the phytonutrients too. And then we also have water. So when that goes in our body and out our body, that's providing us with energy, hydration, repair, growth. It's cleansing us, it's protecting us, it's healing us. And then in the bottom on the asterisk, which is probably hard for you to see because it's back there, but connection and comfort and care. So it's kind of tying in that other part of food that I like to touch on. So it's not just we're machines and we got to eat the right things to live. That's part of it, but food is so much more than that. So the act of cooking helps connect us with family and friends, maybe with your garden or with your grocery store person too. It's part of living. Comfort. So when we think of those comfort foods and those meals with our loved ones or whoever, food brings us comfort. And then care. So it's just an act. I think it's the most simple way to take care of ourselves is just, what am I eating? Because that's something we can control in a good way. Alrighty, so what questions do we have?
Is it true that we cannot break down high fructose corn syrup?
I'm not sure about that. I know it doesn't break down the same as just regular fructose.
I've read it in several articles
Yeah.
that it's impossible for the human body to break it down.
High fructose corn syrup is a chemically altered form of sugar. So what they've done is they've taken a form of sugar and made it more sweet in the lab. And so I could see maybe how that's true because our bodies don't necessarily know how to handle that because it's not real food. But I don't know if we never break it down. I will look that up though. That's interesting. Any other questions?
What's your recommendation for sweeteners?
For sweeteners, I think you should treat any sweetener like sugar. And for me in my life, I do regular sugar if I'm baking and that kind of stuff. If it's something like my oatmeal, I want to sweeten it. Maybe I'll do honey or maple syrup, pure honey and pure maple syrup, because you're getting more stuff out of those and they're sweetening it. Or you can sweeten with fruit. But as far as artificial sweetener goes, if you need that for whatever reason, then just don't overdo it. Stevia is kind of the more natural one, but there's not a ton of research on it. So the real stuff is the best stuff. So sugar, honey, and maple syrup, just make sure it's the pure form of those. So sometimes when you look at a bottle of maple syrup at the store, you turn it around, and guess what? Maple syrup isn't one of the ingredients. So you need to turn it around and really see.
So agave or
Agave, yeah, that's good too. Just making sure it's a good source of it. But for some people, like if we have diabetes or something like that, then you got to choose your battles. So maybe they would rather have that artificial sweetener and not have as much of an effect on their blood sugar, if that's something they enjoy. So it's just making your choices and finding that balance. Yeah, any other questions?
are they finding that artificial sweeteners are really not good for even diabetics? Is that somewhat true?
I'm not sure. There's a couple where in most of their studies, the ones that have proven anything are like on rats. And so we're different than rats, and they're very high amounts. So like they found some of them at very high amounts to not be good in our bodies. But it's still kind of conflicting, I guess. Anything else? Well, I'm glad you guys came. I hope you got something out of this. If not, then at least you got a good lunch.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.